The game released back in I believe it was 2009. It was like a completely different era for games. Like games were actually released as complete packages, I know, wow, without any additional content or microtransactions. They were designed to play from start to finish with no need for additional purchases or upgrades. But today, the gaming landscape has changed, like it really has. Many games are now designed around microtransactions with additional content and upgrades available for purchase. This had led to like a completely different gaming experience, and it's usually negative. Players are often needed to spend additional money to even gain the full experience. It has led to a change in the atmosphere of many games. Games are no longer designed to be played from start to finish, but rather to keep players engaged over a period of time. This can make the experience feel really less immersive, as players are constantly reminded of the need to purchase additional content. The graphics and overhaul of games have been revolutionary. While newer games look a lot better, they often lack the same creativity and originality as older games. Some of the old games of the past are made with limited resources, but they still manage to capture the imagination of players with a unique atmosphere and gameplay. So why am I bringing this up? So basically, I brought this up because recently I played through a game called Saw. As I mentioned before, it was a game released in 2009, which was fucking years ago, but it still managed to be better than every single game. Well, okay, not every single game. It managed to be better than majority of games released nowadays. And back then, this game wasn't even considered a good game. That's the thing. Like back then, this was considered a bad game. But looking back now with a completely different perspective, I look at this game as like a rare gem. And I know some people may disagree, some people might have a different opinion on it. It's rare to even find games like this nowadays. And that's why we are remastering and remaking games from the previous generation, is because this newer generation just lacks any direction and it lacks creativity. Like it's all about money. I know it was always about money before, don't get me wrong, but we still had the product first. They put the product first and the money came. But nowadays it's just they put the money first every single time. There's no creativity. But this game just showcases what we used to have and what we don't have anymore. Many modern games rely heavily on flashy graphics and repetitive gameplay mechanics that quickly become boring and predictable. While there are certainly exceptions to this rule, it is often the case that older games like Saw have a level of complexity that is missing from newer titles. Another advantage of older titles is their focus on gameplay over monetization. In the past, video games were sold as complete experiences. There were no microtransactions or DLC to nickel and dime players, and the games were designed to be played and enjoyed without any additional purchases. Many modern games are designed with monetization in mind, with microtransactions and DLC often taking priority over gameplay or story. This has led to disjointed and unsatisfying experiences, as the players are constantly bombarded with offers to spend money on. Older games like Saw still have a lot to offer, believe it or not. These games are often a lot more engaging, more complex, and more focused on the player experience than any modern titles in the past year. So if you're looking for a game that would truly draw you in and keep you engaged for hours, this is definitely worth revisiting, or any old games in general. Now, I feel like I can't just disregard any negatives, so I might as well get the negatives out of the way. Of course, these older games, they still are chunky. They play chunky and you can feel the chunkness when playing them. It's very chunky. Especially Saw in general has very chunky combat, but I really didn't see it as a big deal. Of course, it comes down to personal preference. Like, someone might find it really annoying while someone might find it tolerable. So really it comes down to, like I said, personal preference. Older games like Saw often had a greater emphasis on storytelling and character development. While many modern games have elaborate backstories or expansive worlds, they can sometimes feel hollow or even shallow in terms of character development. Older games often have more focused and character-driven stories that were designed to engage players on a deeper emotional level. One thing you'll notice with these older games is that they're very keen on great sound design. You notice that in games like Resident Evil 4 and Silent Hill. I'm not saying I'm putting this in the same category, don't get me wrong, because I'm absolutely not. I'm just saying these older games had such a great, unique sound design, whether it's from the soundtrack or the sound that plays when you complete objective, or how doors sound or boards sound. They were always great at creating an atmosphere, and I think the sound design in this game particularly is great. Of course, most of it is ripped from the movie, but how it's incorporated in here works flawlessly. I think it's one of the best features of the game is the sound design and how it works together to create a unique and creepy atmosphere. So yeah, while these modern games certainly have their own great qualities, there's always like a timeless charm. Like there's a timeless charm to these older games like Saw that continues to captivate me. It may captivate others too. I just find the personality of these older games just flourishing with charm. They really offer experiences that modern games simply cannot match nowadays.